Welcome back, my friend. It's been a little while, hasn't it? Take a seat, simmer down, and let me tell you a tale of the Lost Warriors. This is the seventh session we've been doing this now, and what a session it was. A regicide. Long planned in the making, and the party were the implement to that. The sword of Damocles dropped down upon a corrupt mad king, a regent of filth and decay. Well, shall we talk about that? King Theodore certainly had fallen rather far, and you'll hear all about that. Oh yes. Now, how it all starts for this session is simple. The party accepted the job, of course. They felt like they hadn't got much of a choice in the matter, and perhaps they didn't. Perhaps they did. I'll never tell. Now, thankfully, the key that was intended to be their means of communication was, how should we say, their method of finding their contact. Shall we say, this contact, well, they found him quite easily, actually, because the key morphed into a compass. Yes. This is new of a trend. They were quite prepared with unique and strange magical items. And let's just say they were quite prepared here as well, leading the party straight to their informant, wearing completely white, with a blank mask on. Before the party met him, though, they had to do a bit of shopping. Get some fashion in, you know. They're in a party area, after all. And you've got to get the drip. I mean, look at me. I'm drippy, is what you're supposed to say. I know you're looking anyway. Even though I'm clothed, damn it. Anyway. With masks in hand, and on face, Ren found one that fit him somehow. Over his long snout. They then spoke to their contact, a shady individual, veiled in secrecy, like all the others they spoke to. And let's just say, the contact didn't say much, but he provided a basket. Now I say basket. This wasn't really a basket. No. No, this was how would you say a hidden briefcase, as it were. After the party found a nice little lonely place to open it up, a quaint little park, forgotten on the wayside. How shall we say, a grave of a child, long since forgotten perhaps, but a grave nonetheless. And in this place of death, did they plan to deal death? Wasn't the basket, you may be thinking as well. Well, I'm glad you asked. It initially looked like fruit and vegetables and other delicious delights. Treats of all kinds. It wasn't. It was all, how shall we say, wax. Yes, the kind you burn candles with. And, well, let's just say, once they found the right part of the basket that opened up, it revealed a few things. The party had requested some potion assistance, and they received it in tow. 4 healing potions, 3 greater healing, and an odd orange potion. And no, it was not just Fanta. Am I going to use a picture of Fanta randomly in this video? Yes, but it wasn't Fanta. It was a strange orange liquid that moved fast and had lightning coursing around it. There was also another set of keys, another compass, and a locket. It was never used, the locket wasn't. I'll explain the locket's significance later, but it had a picture of the king and his family from before his madness took him. Now, a little, how should we say, I'll get to that actually now. The party followed the compass, which led them to the rear of the castle. Upon doing so, it melted, and they utilised a very specific path to go up from there. The compass's directions were very specific, oddly so. Like I say, this was well planned. And here's where I got into my little addendum I was going to. This revolution has been long in the making. Nemen has had a bit of a problem. A good portion of its population are unwilling to even be population, because naturally they're enslaved, due to their perceived weakness of height. Yes, if you're a short race like a goblin and gnome, you're likely to be thrown into slavery by the people of Nemen. They're not good people. But many of the Republican movement in Nemen, and by Republican movement I mean people who want to form a republic, and no longer a kingdom, just so we're clear on that. But the Republican movement of Nemen realised, well, we can't afford to have a nation filled with people who would be very, very quick to turn on us. So they decided to revolutionise the culture a little. They've been slowly moving to remove the slavery. A bold move, as it's not an uncommon practice. Even Beijing does it. They just call it a social system, you know. Your class. It's basically slavery. Especially the lower levels. But Nemen had this problem of a lot of their skilled labourers were slaves. And no nation can be built on that. So, they then formulated a plan. Due to the king's current insanity and derangement, they were slowly delegitimizing him. To this end, they wanted to stage an assassination, so that his bloodline and him would not be able to interfere. What happened to the king's family is unknown, publicly. Could the Republicans have killed them? Oh, maybe. Could the king have killed them? Very likely. That, perhaps, is a secret that won't ever be relevant, and won't ever be known. What happens in Nemen's revolution is, well, how shall we say, on them. The party not involved in this. Speaking of those slaves, many of them now make up the Grand Republican armies coming for the capital. Right as the king's death was about to happen. This is all part of the ploy. You see, the king being killed at such a pivotal moment would allow them to very quickly take over power, with no legitimate reign left to stop them, because the king being alive, well, his internal court used body doubles and all sorts to keep him in the public eye, in a sense. But recently they haven't been able to do that. Trouble in the house. And this was the moment that the political movers and shakers of Nemen decided it was time for a new change in rulership. And, to that effect, the Grand Host marched. But that'll be more about that later. As for the party, they utilised a very interesting and useful gadget. For you see, waiting for them was a camouflaged rope that was enchanted. The rope was like a snake, with very much similar like strength. Almost like a constrictor would wrap around, but instead of crushing you, it would wrap around your arm and pull you up, rapidly ascending you without having to use your own strength. Ren opted to just climb because he can. But the rest climbed up and infiltrated a quiet part of the palace. Now, this is where I experimented a little bit with the idea of stealth combat. Essentially, I ran it as the entire party would get a go, then the enemy would get a go. So, all the guards would move at the same time, and all the party would move at the same time. Once they had made their plan, I made them lock it in. No takebacks. And they could only move within 5 spaces of each other. Meaning, if anyone wanted to wander off from where they currently were at, well, that was their decision. The group had to make that decision. If they were to split up, well, I might have made things interesting. I was very tempted to cut them off from each other so they couldn't actually communicate. It didn't come up, but it was a thing I thought about. If one of them wanders off, well, okay. You can no longer communicate with your party. You're no longer in sync. You're on your own turn now. But they didn't do that. Thankfully, they stuck together. And I think it was for the better, because Rak, as you may know, is in heavy armour. Man is not sneaking very easily. The others aren't supremely built for sneaking, but they're better than Rack by having better decks and also not being in heavy armor. Now, they quite rapidly and quickly dealt with an initial few guards. The guards, how should we say, all had bells on this floor. And let's just say if any of those had rang, well, then it'd been a big fight. This would have included, by the way, a detachment of knights that were in the more central levels. I may or may not put a map of this up. I'll see. Depends how I feel in the edit. Now, the party did manage to sneak out without any issue, dispatching guards left and right, and quite rapidly descending to the main ground floor. This ground floor had the throne room on it. The keys were pointing this way, and also to another direction, the Royal Guards barracks. The party, recalling from their knowledge of Naaman that the Royal Guards are not only experts in anti-espionage, they're also very lethal. So they'd opted to go through the normal guards and sneak through. Just to mention here, they had to utilize a distraction because even invisible, Rack is still a very loud being in his armor. And the guards didn't just have bells, no. They were also trained on the basics of dealing with invisibility and fast-moving targets. How do you do this? Well, if you hear a strange noise, throw ball bearings on the ground and fill the ground with it. Anything invisible will move the ball bearings or have to try and get around them. A big enough patch and, well, a lot of areas to make a mistake. And then you simply know where to thrust your spear, and you'll get there eventually. Enough of them do this, and well, even an invisible infiltrator may find themselves quickly skewered. So the party used a distraction. Simon would decloak and fly around and be a cute little bat, distracting the guards, whilst the party quickly and immediately entered the throne room. However, there was a problem. Once they entered the throne room, there were 6 guards in there. However, unlike the others, they didn't get a chance to knock them out, because they were all drawn in by a strange, hypnotic stare. A strange, twisted creature, pulling them closer and closer. And, well, Asaran was hit by this. The monk was slowly pulled in. And, how shall we say, he got right up to the throne. It was then the speaker revealed himself. Or the king's speaker, as he called himself. A strange being, one I will hopefully have on screen for you now. This creature, well, was a strange, wispy abomination, clutching the crown jealously in hand. Naamanite's crown, no less. The crown left alone on the throne room, with no king. And no royal guards, just regular ones. The speaker started by draining the life force of all the guards in the room. This then allowed it to have a word with the party. Asaran was then broken free of his hypnotic gaze and saw the creature for what it was, and not the freedom that he thought he was going to receive. Not this time, Asaran. Not this time. The creature, however, was a hardy beast. Its only attacks were draining and an AoE. So, it didn't have any traditional weaponry. What it did have was an immunity to non-magical damage, which meant Asaran could not shoot it to death. This is one of those times where even his firepower was not enough. And without magical attacks, as he'd gone fighter, not monk, just to stress, he's a 8th level character, but he's not an 8th level monk. He's got a bit of fighter in there. His extra attacks are going to come in big. and action surge is nothing to sniff at. And samurai certainly won't be. Sadly, it does deprive him of magical attacks, meaning, unfortunately, for our dear monk, he has to use a different weapon. And thankfully, he has it. His blade that he had acquired from a fallen foe was magical, and he wielded it to good effect against the creature. However, today's the session Rack shows everyone that he goes atomic. And he does so here. Well, let's just say Rack nuked the creature.
I am atomic.
In an almighty display, he splits it in two with his mighty sword. When it crits, it ignites into flame and the dragon's roar can be heard. And, well, he then smited, ensuring its destruction was guaranteed. After this tremendous blow, the party rested. Poor Ren had used his spell slots into stealth earlier, and, well, he's a warlock. Asteron's a monk. They both got their resources back in the short rest. Rack was in the good spirits, bit hurt, otherwise okay. And after a rest, it was fine. That is when, well, shall we say, the guards all had to run. Because the revolution had started. The outside walls were being attacked. The party's moment to infiltrate the barracks was now. And when they entered, the keys were pointing that way. And they found the royal guards looting the place. Because these royal guards might as well be called the Praetorian Guard. If you know anything about the Roman Empire and the Praetorian Guard, you know exactly what kind of people these are. The worst kind of people to be your bodyguards. And I don't mean the ones from that one animation channel, or comic channel should I say, where they start smooching. No, no, no. They probably do smooch, but they tend to smooch with a blade. And an Emperor's back. The royal guards would allow the party to go down and deal with the king, for they were rather sick of dealing with the beast and his kin. You'll see them soon. Let's just say the price was simple. Hand over the crown. The party did. The crown was no use to them. It just had some powerful magical effects, but would also kill anyone unworthy. So, they had no use for it at all. They handed it over. The royal guards left, and the party went down. Down into the depths, the twisting confines of madness. A place filled with death, blood, and contortion. A place ruled by a king of ghouls now. No longer a glorious regent, no. This was a den of a monster. And his monstrous people who called him Lord and Master. The rotting dead stench could be felt immediately by the party. Their noses twisting immediately, their hairs burning, just scenting that much gore. And after finding a bloody gash the size of a man, the party followed. If they'd gone the other way, they'd have faced more ghouls and perhaps another speaker. There's more than one speaker after all. Or maybe they never truly killed it. Who knows? Not them, that's for sure. But they followed down the path, deeper, darker, and darker still, till they found a ghoul, ravaging the body. She was likely a maid once. She was likely a beautiful woman in her youth. But something foul had taken her, twisted her, body, mind, and soul. Now she was a beast, hungry for flesh. And the party were a ripe meal indeed. And so that she attacked, as did many others. Many former servants, maids, butlers, guards, just normal people from the streets, sent to feed the monster, and not all of them stayed down. Some of them turned turned to the same bloody rituals he did, but without the willpower to hang on, they became truly wretched. Ghouls are somewhat undead, but also not. And interestingly, in my setting at least, they're quite connected to the beast. They're an alternate form of worship in a way, descending to a feral, debased state, how the beast prefers its followers. None of them had gained its favour yet, but perhaps some of them would have eventually formed Wendigos one day. Thankfully, the party made sure that would never happen for most of them. However, the ghouls were smart. Crazed assaults, ambushes, and all kinds of tactics, lying on the floor and crawling along till they jumped, to avoid ranged fire. They were not stupid. They had a bit of intelligence, a cunning to them. But after dealing with all of that, the party came to a door. If you played a Souls game, you'd probably imagine a door like some of the bosses would be behind. A great stone door that required a push. But before they tried to enter, a voice reached out to them from the darkness of their very minds. It said only a few words. It said, "Don't open the door." In exactly that voice. A creature of horror, it declared itself the king's huntsman, the last vestige of his cunning, his intelligence, and much of the man he was twisted now into the form of a beast, a pig-like horror. I found this little picture around, and, well, I want to make use of it for something. It fits the aesthetic of the beasts quite nicely. A little something from Hellblade, and I did quite like the idea of it, so I'll be reusing the picture. So if you're wondering where you recognise it from, that's where. But the concept is different from the Shadow Beast it's based off of. The pictures just represent, like all our creatures. Now, after ignoring its warning, the party entered. What greeted them was a monster. What greeted them was a beast. No longer a man. A thing. A contorted beast that simply rambled and raved at itself, demanding answers, demanding supplication, demanding food, demanding its family. But its family was gone. And the party rightfully questioned, what kind of beast was he? After enough of this poking and prodding, the king was angered. And though he had initially invited them in, even had a butler meet them, he then grew angry with them and lashed out. However, Asaran drank the potion. The tango was drank. It turned out it wasn't tango, it wasn't poison, it was something more. A powerful potion. I've yet to fully give it a name, but the working title is probably a potion of invigoration. Or a potion of combat. Or Ichor of the Warrior. Something like that. We'll see which name sticks. What it does is simple. It applies 3 turns of haste and 10 points of barrier. What's barrier? Play an abjuration wizard. They get a form of temporary hit points that is not temporary hit points. They're very interesting. And in the prior campaign we had one. And I actually want to play one of those wizards one day. It's on the list. Now, this barrier will absorb 10 hit points of damage before taking any further health points. The haste would, of course, apply all the usual effects of haste. The important thing was it wasn't a concentration, because it was a potion. There was no checks involving concentration. But after 3 turns, you would be stunned. Guaranteed. No save. Asaran, rightly so, utilised this time he had to open fire, absolutely pounding the king, even stunning him at one point. And he did a lot of damage, let me tell you. But again, it was not him. It wasn't Ren. Ren was doing his best to support and shoot the little ghouls that were trying to flood them as well. But no. It was Rak. Once again.
I am atomic.
And, well, down to the king. But, in a last fit of rage, a second wind overtook the king. He mutated. The crest on his head, like a crown, now twisted into antlers. His features became more goat-like. His claws extended. His scepter fell to the ground. No longer being wielded, he would turn to claw and fang and descend upon them with a guttural rage. He truly became the beast that he looked now. The mind gone. His mouth agape and hungry. And with a very close call, and Ren doing his absolute damnedest to keep the party alive, feeding them healing potions and doing his absolute best to keep them going. Astra managed to get a few more hits in before Rak managed to deliver one more final blow. One last crit. Yet again. For one last time. Say it with me now. He went... And my word. He clawed into him once with that sword. And he was already filled with a gash. This time the king would lose his head from the troll, ending his reign once and for all. And that, my friends, is the story of Session 7. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I intend to make sure this one is edited nicely. Subtitles, some little memes. I hope you like it. Let me know how I did. I would like to hope I've improved a little bit now, and I'm hoping it's up from here. But please, any hints at all, any thoughts, feelings, you let me know. If you've liked the video, please drop a like, maybe even, dare I ask, can I get a subscribe? Please? Pretty please? But if you don't think I did a good job, maybe drop a dislike. But I ask, whether you liked it, disliked it, whatever you did, leave a comment as well, please. Let me know how I did. Let me know what your thoughts are. Even just to say hi and you liked it. Anyway, that will be all from me. I wish you all a wonderful day, morning, evening, night, wherever it is you are. Until next time, it's ta for now.